Welcome to Boomstick Gaming, this is Alex, and I have a brand new career to share with you. Time to throw this whole gaming video thing in the trash, because now I am a full-time manual labor ship dissecting spaceman, all thanks to the training provided by Hardspace Shipbreaker. Now back down to this vastly more boring reality. In this gameplay overview I have in store for you, I want to try to give a solid demonstration of the overall gameplay in Shipbreaker, along with a few tips along the way, so hopefully by the end of this, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into with your new outer space career, and maybe be a little better at it. The job of a ship cutter, that's you, can be incredibly treacherous if you don't amputate your space vessels with the utmost of care, because you certainly don't want this to happen to you, since there are zero other coworkers within thousands of miles to try to pass the blame. Now let's get to it. From here on out, the following will all just be one example of an average day in the life as a cutter, to make sure no one gets intergalactically fired today. Alright, for today's work, we have chosen the Mackerel civilian cargo ship. I'm sure you're familiar, and we have a few orders to try to fill, but first, we need to find a safe way to enter the ship so we can vent the flammable oxidizer oxygen before we begin salvaging. Using our different visors is an easy way to spot specific elements on the ship, like its structure, systems, and the objects within. The airlock is right before us, and although manual air braking is really effective in this, you can also reach out with both of your hands to better navigate in tricky areas instead. Once we're inside, we will immediately vent out all the air in the ship so we don't have any vacuuming issues or dangerous yet cinematic explosions. Now, what I like to do immediately before getting to stripping the place is removing the floor. Can there even be floors in space, or are they all ceilings? I don't know, but doing this allows us to easily launch things straight into our salvage bay from inside the ship. Once the outside panels are free, they'll have a slight blue effect to them, indicating they are now movable with your grapple tool. There is a piece of cargo attached to this that we don't want to accidentally scrap into one of our material refining bays, so we will hold our grapple tool on it just for a second to dislodge it, and then chuck it down into our magic green salvage net below. Now we do now have some nanocarbon panels we need to take care of, and by using our grapple tool's limited use tethers, we can link these together and then tether that bundle to the blue refining bay, which will also convert this scrap into money. Now that we have a really easy access point into the bottom of our ship, we can start clearing out anything in our way to get then to starting our real goals and our work order. You can pretty much yank off anything from the ship not nailed down, and actually even the stuff nailed down thanks to our cutter tool. All of these items have different values, and since the entire goal of the game is to pay off your $99 million debt, you'll need to quickly take as much as you can, since you do have a limited time limit during your work shift. Now, since this is somewhat cleared out, we can start tackling one of our main objectives in our work orders, which upon completion, provides us points we can then spend to upgrade our equipment in between days. For one of these, we need to find and salvage the ship's power cell, which can be easily spotted by switching to your visor's systems mode. Once we get to it, there is some thin metal in the way, but our Splitsaw attachment for the cutter works perfectly for chewing straight through it. If you see a dotted red line when you have the Splitsaw equipped, it's indicating that the metal that you're aiming at can have chunks cut out of it. The power cell is attached to the backside of this panel, and we need to safely remove it, not getting too close to it, since electrocution is one of the most common workplace injuries here. After depositing the power cell, one of our work orders has been completed, indicated by the universal sign for being awesome, the thumbs up. Now we need to take care of that scrap metal we just cut out, which will also give us some money if we do, and again, using our tether to send it flying, into the fiery bay in this case for this type of metal, will save us tons of time so we can get back to the main task at hand. Next, we need to try to safely remove the very volatile ship reactor. Once we remove the reactor from its base, it will start to deteriorate, so we need to make sure we can easily get it into the salvage bin quickly once we do. We can dislodge this panel from the ship by cutting its supports, and move the reactor still in its base into a more open area. Like I mentioned before, electrocution is a common workplace hazard here, and before sending this away into our salvage area, the reactor does manage to set our days without a workplace injury count right back to 0. This has damaged some of our equipment, specifically our visor, which you might notice glitching out a little bit during the rest of this workday. Instead of expending any more of our tethers to deposit this leftover panel, we can just use the good old-fashioned method of blasting it ourselves straight into the bin without using up any more tethers. At this point, halfway through our workday, we have not yet come across any extra oxygen tanks in the ship we're working on, so we will need to head back into our little hub base to refill, so we don't total recall our face out here. Next, I feel like we have done enough of our work orders for today, so let's do more of our own thing and aim for amassing the most money before calling it a day. These exterior thrusters usually sell for a large amount, and I always like aiming for scrapping them off of any ship I'm working on, but some models can be trickier to remove than others. For this type, it needs to be detached from the inside, and by switching out to our structural visor, we can see the two bright yellow points to where it attaches to the ship. Luckily, we already removed the wall panel earlier to get to that power cell, so all we need to do now is to use our cutter to remove those posts. Different parts of the ship might be pre-damaged, or you can damage them yourself if you're not careful, and you can tell the part's quality by the little square icons on the item. This thruster is somewhat damaged already, but will still give us a fairly easy nice chunk of money. Next, I want to aim for extracting the ship's thruster on the back, which is attached from the outside of the ship, but needs to be released from the inside using this panel. After it's been unlocked, we need to head outside and take care of those supports with our cutter. This is another one of those fragile parts that needs to be handled with love, so be careful. Now we are starting to run out of time with our workday, so let's try to get in a few more last minute salvages. Heading back inside, some of the smaller items can actually be grabbed with your hands and moved around if you don't feel like trying to wrangle them with your grappling tool. Using some of our remaining tethers, let's link some of these boxes together and shoot them all down a little faster. Next, let's cut out a new wall panel and see what goodies lie within, and lucky for us, this one houses one of the ship's cooling systems, which yes, again, can be hazardous, freezing you or parts of the ship if you puncture it. I can hear the countdown timer for our shift about to end, and I start to get a little overzealous and sloppy with handling this highly flammable fuel container, and almost fling it too fast into the ship, but I do manage to slow it down at the last second by utilizing both of my hands. Our untimely death by explosion would have been a bad way to end our day, so let's just close out our shift by calling it right there. Next, we are shown our entire haul for today, which is good to use as intel so you know which parts of the ship you should focus on the most and which to avoid wasting time on. This was a decent haul, not great since I was playing pretty slow and without the HUD on for demonstration purposes, but yeah, not too bad for one day's work. On the following screen, we can see all of our expenditures like equipment rental and fees, and if you don't manage to salvage enough during a shift, yes, your debt can rise, so play smart. The main progression through Shipbreaker is all about increasing your certification rank by achieving certain meta level objectives, which will then unlock more difficult ships and equipment upgrades. Speaking of those, you can upgrade your cutter, grapple tool, thrusters, scanner, helmet, and suit, which will all help you to be more effective and protected while doing your increasingly dangerous job. That concludes an entire day in the life of working as a spaceship cutter, and now I'll kick this back over to my assistant, myself. Thanks for that, Alex. Now, Hardspace Shipbreaker I found to be an unassumingly addicting game that I wasn't quite sure I would like going into it, but just like Focus Home Interactive's other recent title, SnowRunner, it provided a different type of gaming experience I didn't quite know I wanted. Shipbreaker feels to me like a three-dimensional construction puzzle game where the ship's hull is your enemy and timely salvaging efficiency is the primary skill ceiling, or floor, or whatever. Slowly chipping away at your massive debt makes for a somewhat repetitive but still fun gameplay loop of maximizing your ship stripping skills. Hopefully this somewhat all came across in the video I prepped for you today, because it's always hard to try to capture the vibe of games like this without getting your hands on it yourself, so let me know how well I did down in the comments and I'll see what you thought. I really appreciate you watching this all the way to the end, and for giving the more unorthodox side of gaming a fair chance. As always, this has been Alex from Boomstick Gaming, and good luck out there.